Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's really lovely to be here and to see you all. My name is Deborah Webster, and thank you so much for choosing this as your first seminar, or perhaps you didn't have a choice. So you're here anyway, and I hope you will enjoy and learn something this morning. So what are we going to be thinking about? We're going to be thinking about, first of all, well, what children are doing online, okay? You can tell me. And I can tell you as well, because I'm also a parent. I think that's important for you to know. I am a parent, and both of my children, aged 12 and 15, are both online and have been for some time. So what are they doing online? We're going to be thinking as well, what's positive and helpful? I do believe there are things that are good and positive and helpful about spending time online. And if I didn't believe that, I don't think I would go about trying to educate and equip. I think I would be standing there telling the government with my big banner, ban it all, get rid of social media, get rid of the internet. And I know maybe there are times you perhaps feel like that as a parent. There's times I feel like that too. But we need to remind ourselves there are things that are positive. So we're going to think about that. We're also going to think about what's negative and potentially harmful for children. And then I want to think, I've really just pulled out 3 ways of how they spend time online. And we're going to think about what are the biblical principles around this? How can we help our children to reflect Jesus in light of those areas? And those areas are their interactions with others, because after all, isn't that a lot of what people are doing online? Interacting with others. We're going to think about comparison online, how comparing of themselves with other people online might impact them. And we're going to think about the influence of influencers. And finally, if we have time, we'll think a little bit about what can we say to children and what can we say to parents to help them. So a little bit of interaction here. What I would like to ask you is, can you tell me, please, what are your children doing online? What are they doing online? What are they looking at? What are they playing? Where are they? Anybody want to shout out? What did I hear? TikTok? Yep, TikTok, the most downloaded app, absolutely. What else do we have? YouTube, Minecraft, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Roblox. I can hear them all. Minecraft, yep. Instagram, Discord as well. I used to think Discord was really more for teens, but recently met a child in primary school who said, yeah, I love Discord, so it's up there. GTA, don't know if anybody knows children who play GTA. I've never played it, but apparently it's about picking up women and stealing cars. And that is what a lot of our children are playing. And Fortnite. You cannot be a parent and not know what Fortnite is if your child is probably from the sort of age 8 years old and up. Lots of ways they're spending time online. I'm sure there's others that you have thought of, but this would be the most popular things at the moment. TikTok being the most downloaded app of recent years. And where I find, I suppose, a massive difference is that with that, and with also the likes of Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, what we see is the content is suggested to the children, yeah? That's a massive change, isn't it? I think years ago when we thought about online safety and children being at risk online, we thought, oh, they might go to Google and search up something and see something inappropriate. That could still happen, but actually they're looking at their iPad or their phone, whatever it is, and they are seeing something inappropriate without even looking for it. YouTube, really popular, isn't it? I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. I don't know about you. It's so useful, isn't it? If you're trying to, cook. I'm not very good in the kitchen. How to make a curry, how to boil an egg. I'll go to YouTube. But that's not what our children are looking or watching on YouTube. I think back to my child who is now 15, and I think when she was, say, 3 or 4, and she had her screen time, it was a DVD. Doesn't that sound so old-fashioned? Wasn't that long ago now. And what was great about the DVD was it was over in 25 minutes. And what was also great about the DVD was there wasn't anywhere else the child could be on. Nothing else they could be watching. There was no scary picture coming in. You couldn't accidentally press something and be taken somewhere else. And that is not the same with YouTube. YouTube never ends. And there already we have the challenges of, I need more time. Can I watch something else? Don't turn it off. And the other problem, of course, with YouTube, even with kids' YouTube, we sometimes see stuff, it appears, scary pictures, things that are not appropriate, just coming in the middle of it. Again, without the child actually going looking for it. So here's a question for you, and I think it is important to think about the positives. What is positive and helpful for your child spending time online? Can I ask for hands up just so I can hear people? Anybody want to tell me what's positive about it? What's good about it? Yes. Brilliant. For learning. Fantastic. There's so many ways they can learn online, and schools are using that all the time. Brilliant. And if your child is not learning with these apps, we might worry they're getting behind. Yeah. And lovely games can reinforce their learning. Brilliant. Anybody else? Anything positive? Yeah. Socializing. So maybe particularly if they're playing games online with friends or chatting to friends, and so important that they are their actual friends, not their online friends, but people they actually know already. Brilliant. They're socializing, and maybe a child doesn't see any other children in the holidays or the weekend. They might be quite isolated. They can spend time with people their own age. Thank you. Do I have one at the back a minute ago? Same. Any others? Yes. Did you say what? Sorry. Yeah. Occupy them. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're sitting waiting for an appointment. You are busy trying to work or, my goodness, do something yourself. And the child can be occupied. Brilliant. Here's an iPad or whatever. And there is definitely a time and space for that. So I do believe there are many positives and helpful things for them about spending time online. Learning, we said, and having fun, playing games. There's a lot of playing games goes on in my house, and the laughs and the fun that comes from that room is brilliant. So, you know, today we're not saying that this is all bad stuff, but we want to help our children get the most and the best out of it. So here's the next question then. What would you see as negative and harmful? What could be negative and harmful about spending time online for your child? Addiction. Thank you so much. Yeah. Do you know, we see that even in very young children. And sometimes when I'm delivering parent workshops, parents will be genuinely concerned and say to me, if I removed that device from my child, nightmare. They would smash up the house. This would happen, that would happen. They are so addictive. And, you know, sometimes it's kind of unfair for us to expect a child to have the self-discipline to put down a device that is designed to be addictive. Because the more time we're on it, spending time on it, well, the more money people are making out of us. And at the end of the day, mostly, these are companies who are trying to make money. So absolutely right, it can be addictive. And what I would say as well is children are so different, aren't they? And you might have a child who can quite easily put a device down, but others that would really struggle. And that's where it does come in for us, those who are parents, to be able to monitor that. So thank you. Addictiveness. Anything else that's maybe negative or harmful for children? Yes? Bad. Negativity? Bad influences. Thank you. Brilliant. Absolutely. Bad influences. Influences that we might not want them to have. And I think as parents or as leaders working with children, you'd have almost less control that we would have had in generations. You can't control a lot of these influences if they're online because we don't know where they're coming from and who that might be and what that might look like exactly. Thank you. Brilliant. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Pornography. The reality is this kind of stuff, sexually explicit stuff, is readily available online, okay? And so often children will come across it accidentally, so without looking for it. And then if they do see it, maybe they don't know what to do. They might be confused. Or they might feel, I'm going to get in trouble. I'll not say anything. And yet they've seen something and it's disturbing them. And what are they going to do about it? Nothing. And I think that's why parents and carers, or we can use this and when we're working with children as well, we can say, if there's anything you're worried about, anything that concerns you that you see online, you can come and talk to me. It's not that you're going to be in trouble. I just want to know that you can talk to me about it. I think that's really important. So thank you. We've thought about the things that are good and positive, but some of the things that are negative and harmful. What about the context? What do we know then from research? Well, research tells us the time children and young people are spending online today is increasing. That's been the last number of years, and that would be in Ireland, UK, worldwide. As well as that, the age that children are accessing their own devices is getting younger and younger. And that's a challenge too, isn't it? Some of this stuff that I have here today, I'm thinking, I should leave that for the teens seminar, the seminar after lunch. But I'm like, actually, that's relevant to children now because they're getting younger and younger. They're seeing more and more stuff that is more and more inappropriate because they are younger. That makes sense. Nighttime use of devices, a growing concern. Absolutely see this within the work that I do. And certainly within schools, I see children who are like age 8, 9, 10, and they are arguing with me about why they should have a mobile phone under their pillow when they are going to bed at night. And I hear all of these stories about what if there's a fire or there's a robber, and I end up saying, you don't get your phone if this happens, But this is the norm. This is the norm in our society. And then therefore that's harder and harder for us to go against the norm, isn't it? Parents' lack of interest in their children's online activities reported. And you might see that amongst peers, amongst children that you work with. You think, how are they allowed this? How is this happening? Because after all, parents give them the devices in the first place. The next slide I'm going to show you is from CyberSafe Kids report. So you might be familiar with this organisation. They do a lot of work in schools around Ireland, and you can easily access their report online. What are they telling us? And this is 8 to 12-year-olds, just because that is the age that they focused on in this report. 94% own their own smart device, so whether that's a tablet or a mobile phone, okay? So we can pretty much say that all the children that are going to come along to your church or your organisation, if they're in this age group, they're online, okay? We can't be saying this is not relevant to those children. It's most likely that they are online. 35% have unrestricted online access, okay? That's massive. 25% have experienced bullying online. 25% have been bothered or upset by something seen or experienced online. 36% kept that experience to themselves, okay? And that is one of the worrying situations, isn't it? That they're not talking to other people, to adults in their life. Perhaps they think they're going to get into trouble. But if you don't talk about something, doesn't it get worse, seem worse in your own head? So that's the context. That is the reality. And thinking about those interactions that we have online, there's a few things that I want to draw out. And first of all, I would say, whenever I'm talking to children at the workshops, I'll always ask them, is there anything you don't like about spending time online? And usually one of the first things they will say is, people are mean. People are mean online. We see that with adults, don't we? People who seem really lovely, quiet people online, completely different. And we see that in children. They say things online they would never say to your face. And they think they can get away with it. And of course, we know that's not the reality. I know people who have lost their jobs, gone to court, had to pay money, had the police take their phones from them because they thought, I can say whatever I like behind my screen. And they can't. And we need to make sure the children that we are working with know that. But the reality is, because other people are doing that, their peers are saying these things, then they're being affected by these comments. Of course, Snapchat will be one of the most popular apps, and most people who use Snapchat know that those messages can disappear. And of course, the reality is, just because it's disappeared from your phone does not mean that it's disappeared forever. It is online somewhere. And the person or the group chat that you've sent that to, well, they can save that. They can keep that. They can share that. And an awful lot of the work that I end up doing in schools is because these 9 and 10-year-olds are in these group chats. And these are big group chats, and everybody is saying things that they wouldn't say to someone's face, that are mean, that are unkind, because they think, I'll get away with it. I can say whatever I like. And they can't. And it's very, very simple message for our children is to be kind online. Why would they not be? Why would they be somebody different online that they would be in reality? And what does the Bible tell us about kindness? An awful lot, doesn't it? And I don't believe most children, we actually need to tell them how to be kind. I think they know already how to be kind. Yes, we all have a sinful nature, but they know to be kind. But we need to remind them. And we also need to remind them to be kind online, because it's the same as in real life. If you're not going to say it in the playground, you wouldn't say it online. And we have the verse from Colossians, although I think there's plenty more there, that talk about kindness. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. We need to remind them to be kind. What would Jesus have us say? What would Jesus have us do? When I was carrying out my PhD research, I was actually talking with 13-year-olds and living in Northern Ireland at the time. And the research I was conducting was really specifically about social media, and it was specifically about how using social media can impact their well-being. And of all the things we talked about, the thing that came up again and again and again was comparison. And what they were telling me was they compared themselves, their ordinary, lovely selves, with these edited selves of other people that they see online. Anybody familiar with Sephora? The Sephora girls, yes. So if you're not sure, as far as I know, Sephora is a place, a shop, where you will buy makeup and skincare products. In the States, I know there's 2 coming to the UK. Perhaps there's 1 coming to Ireland. I'm not sure. And really what we have found in the last maybe couple of years, we hear about the Sephora girls. So these are young girls, and I mean 9, 8, 9, 10 years old. And they are spending a lot of money, not necessarily even on makeup, but on skincare. Now, like you, if I think back when I was 10 years old, if I had any pocket money, would I be spending it on skincare? Absolutely not. If my mum slapped a bit of Factor 50 on my face every now and again, that's probably as far as we went. But this is what they're doing. And then a can only imagine that it has come from a TikTok trend, and we have these get ready with me videos. This is my skincare routine. This is what I do. And what happens? They post that. Everyone else sees it. Oh, I need to go. I need to go there. I need to buy this, this and that. Really expensive creams that are meant for people who are nearly going to get wrinkles. And actually, possibly not even helpful for their very young skin. It's a trend, yes, but they are imitating these other people. It's, who are seeing this as important. And of course, we've all heard it said before, it's what's on the inside that counts, right? And yet, social media, so much of it is about the outside, isn't it? 100%. It is all about the look, what's worn, the clothes, the face, the style, all of that. And if our children are spending hours watching other people, looking at their edited faces or their bodies or their get ready with me videos, that is going to impact them. And of course, what we are seeing is unrealistic expectations. What we're looking at, what they might be looking at, is filtered, it's edited. The people don't even look like that in real life. And they have to know that. And I think I could be honest and say, if you also use social media like I do, perhaps you have looked at other people or other people's lives and gone, oh, look at that, so perfect. Isn't everything so amazing for them? Wish I was like that. And hopefully, with our adult life experience, we're able to shrug our shoulders, get over it, and think, well, that's life. But are 9 and 10-year-olds able to do that? Do they have life experience to know, actually, not everything is as it seems online. And it's so important that they know that message. What we're seeing as well is not just in terms of appearance, but people comparing their lives to other people online. YouTubers, people who have a swimming pool in their back garden. Maybe some of you do. I certainly don't. Driving around in fancy cars, looking at all of this and comparing themselves. I'm not sure if you have heard the quote by Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy. Isn't that true? And isn't that true on social media? We could be quite happy with our own lives in our own little world, and then we see what everybody else is doing, and suddenly we feel discontented with ourselves and with what we have. And as a Christian, and for Christian children, that's massive, isn't it? We want them to be thankful, to be grateful for what they have, and not compare themselves to what other people have, because it ends up them feeling miserable. What truths do our children need to know? And what I would be saying is, before they are on social media, if they're going to go that way, before that even happens, we need to be sure that they know you are made by God. Everyone looks different, and that's okay. We need to accept, or they need to accept, we need to help them to accept who they are and what they look like. So they're not always going to be trying to change and therefore feel discontent when they're looking at other people. And of course, hopefully you're familiar with this verse. In 1 Samuel 16, verse 7, we read, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So true, so relevant for us today and for our children. And it's important that we can share these truths with them before they're even spending time online. Influencers. We talked a moment ago about positive or negative influences. And what I want us to think about is the influence of influencers, because they really do influence. And do not underestimate that. I think sometimes, we will maybe think to ask children that we work with, oh, who do you chat to online? And, who do you connect with? And that's really important that we do that. Who are these people that they're talking to? Are they their friends in real life? Have they actually met them before? But also we need to ask them, who do you follow? Because they'll not necessarily see that as people they're communicating with, but they certainly do follow them, and they are being influenced by them. And what are influencers trying to do? And first of all, I'll say, because there might be some influencers here, they're not all necessarily negative, but we need to be asking the question, who are these people that are influencing the children we know, and what kind of influence are they? Because influencers are not their friends. And yet they'll talk to them like they are, don't they? Hi, guys. They will talk to them like they are their best friends, but they are not their friends. And they will not replace friends and family in real life. Influencers are generally there to make money. Okay, and that's why they're advertising products. They're giving them for free. They are told then to advertise. If they advertise to people and they buy them, then they're going to get paid for it. So when they're telling us, oh, you must buy this. This is brilliant. This is a great product. We need to know, oh, this is an advert. And children need to know that as well. Mr. Beast, you may be familiar with. There's a lot of influencers so popular with children. One of the greatest earners on YouTube is a guy called Ryan. I think when he was maybe 9 years old, he started opening boxes. Yes, you might be familiar with the opening boxes. He would open boxes and get whatever is in the box, toys, whatever that might be. This was videoed, put on YouTube, and he would earn money through it. His mom left her job to promote. He's been one of the highest earners on YouTube. I think we also need to think in terms about influencers in the sense that it's not necessarily regulated. So a child sitting watching YouTubers on YouTube, it's not like watching a DVD, because we don't know necessarily what's going to happen or what these people are going to say. A parent was telling me at a parent workshop how they were very careful with their child online, what they were allowed, what they were not allowed to watch. And they did allow her to watch this influencer because she talked all about horses. And the videos were how to look after horses, how to care for a horse. And the child watched these and it was interesting for her and she learned about it. But as this influencer got older, she started to say different things in the videos. And then one of the videos, she just started talking in the middle of it about a sexual experience that she had had. Now, obviously, the parents were horrified by this. This is not what they wanted for their child. And just brings us back to we've got to know who are these people that the children are watching and how might they influence them. What can we read in the Bible about influencers? Well, of course, it comes back to being an imitator. And who do we want our children to actually imitate? Who do we want for them to use as a role model? The verse from Ephesians says this, therefore, be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. What I want us to do now is think about a little bit more practically about the children that we might work with or the children that you might have at home. What sort of things can we say to them? And sometimes we hear, talk to children about what they're doing online. Okay, but what do we say? So here's just some thoughts and some ideas that I have. And some of these are things that I say to children regularly in the workshops that I deliver. And one of them is this. Stop, block, and talk. So in other words, someone is saying something that is mean, that is nasty, that is harmful, that is hurtful. What do you do? The temptation is there to respond. Isn't that right? We all know that ourselves. Perhaps somebody says something and there's been horrible things said about members of my family online and everything inside of me wants to reply and respond. But actually, stop. Don't reply. That is only going to make it worse. So we want them to stop, to block that person. If they are using apps, if they're gaming online, somebody's being rude, starting to chat to them, saying things they don't like, they don't want to hear from them again. So make sure they know how to block them and talk. talk to us, talk to their leaders, whoever we might be. They can always come and talk to us about anything that anybody says to them online. If anyone puts pressure on them to do something online that they're not happy doing, say no. And unfortunately, this is something we're hearing so much about now in everywhere. Sextortion is often what it's referred to. You might know it as grooming or catfishing. And that's when people pretend to be somebody else online. They will befriend someone. They'll be really maybe friendly with them, put pressure on them to do things, send them photos. And once that's happened, then they will maybe start to blackmail them for more. And do not think this only happens to 17-year-olds, okay? It's a very big case happened just before November. A guy from County Armagh, he was known as the greatest catfisher of all time. His victims were as young as 9 years old, and they lived all around the world. And what disturbed me about that one was hardly any of those children told their parents. Why? Because these people are so deceitful, manipulative. And again, it comes back to if we have any influence with children, we can say to them, do you know, if there's anything happens online or anything you're worried about, you know, you can come and talk to me. Okay, have other interests. Really important, isn't it? It is important that they are doing other things so they're not spending all their time. You know, playing computer games is really good fun. It can be positive, but not all the time. They need to be doing other things that are good for them and that are fun. Using timers, set a screen time to limit time online. There's a lot of things I talk about the parent workshops, how we do that. Talk to an adult we've mentioned, and only communicate with people that they actually know, people they've met before in real life. Some of the group chats going around at the moment, it's things like add everyone but your parents. Okay, so we know we don't want children to be in that one. We need to make sure they know, look, you don't need to be added to something you don't want to be. You can leave a group chat if you want to. In fact, sometimes that is the thing that you should do. Okay, a little bit more just about for parents. And if you have influence with other parents, this is things that you can say to them to help them, to encourage them, or if you are a parent yourself. It's obvious, but I still think it needs to be said. When a new device comes into the house, has that been set up properly? There's lots of help online to do that, but we don't just hand the Amazon box to the 9-year-old and say, oh, well, they're better at that stuff than me. Nope. It's our responsibility as an adult to sort that out. Have intentional and regular conversations about this with our kids. I find that hard as my children grow, so you want to start it from when they're small. You want to start having these conversations even before they're on social media. Oh, but you know, those people are edited. Do you know that not everything we hear online is true? You know that. We want to be saying these things as part of our regular, everyday conversations. But we also want to be positive about it too. And that's hard, isn't it? Sometimes, certainly in my house, I feel I'm always saying, oh, put that away. Are you on that again? You know, so we actually want to be positive about it. And there's many different ways we can join in with their screen time in a positive way. Encourage the other things that are good for them, spending time outside, play. Play is so important when they're small, isn't it? And certainly what I have heard from educators of young children, they're coming to school and they maybe don't have those fine motor skills that they had before. They don't know how to share. They're not sure how to take turns. They are not sure how to hold a book, but they can swipe it. So we need to make sure that, yes, they're spending time online, but are they doing other things that are fun, that are good for their well-being? No devices in the bedroom at night time. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because actually, well, it might help them to calm down a wee bit. But what else could help them? reading a book, telling them a Bible story, something else that does not involve a screen. And I guess I have it up there because I have to ask myself this question. What's my relationship look like with my phone? Do I want my child to be talking to me through a screen? No. Do I talk to them through a screen? I hope not. I put that down. I look them in the eye. I make sure they know that they are important to me as much as using my phone might be important. They are much more important than that. The displacement theory, this is a little bit of research for you. This is very, very helpful. And what it means is that the harm for your child may not be actually what's on the screen. We've said there can be harmful stuff, influencers that are not positive, but they might be spending all their time doing educational stuff and learning. But the harm on the screen might not be what's on it, but what they're not doing, okay? And that's where we're making sure that they are spending time outside, they are spending time getting messy, getting out the games, being creative, all the things that sometimes take a wee bit more hard work. But they're positive and they are so helpful for them and for their well-being. A few healthy habits to think about in the home. Perhaps this is things that you have. A screen-free time, maybe that's at meals. Yeah, is there a time where we all have those devices down? What about where they go? If you have iPads, phones, tablets, where do they stay at bedtime? Because we don't want them to go upstairs. A charging station or somewhere that you would keep them. And then finally, what are we doing that is giving our kids those good memories, those good screen-free times? It's so important. And certainly in my house, I know my children are a wee bit older now, but every day is not making magical memories. Not at all. We are on our screens a lot. But are there times that we are intentionally being together, not spending time on the screens, doing things that they will look back on because it goes so quick, doesn't it? This slide is just going to be relevant for a few people here, so I want to mention it. If your child is getting a phone for the first time, okay? And what I do is I have something that might help you with this. These are available over on the stall there on the table. And this is called a phone pledge. And the idea is when your child is getting a phone for the first time, you're saying to them, yep, here's the phone that you've been looking for, but it comes from some responsibilities. This is not a toy. And the sorts of things we have here, I pledge when using my phone, I will be kind to others online, just like we were talking about. It's important we tell them. It's important they know that that's the condition for them having this phone. So there's a list of do's and don'ts. If anybody would find that helpful, please just grab it at the end. I just wanted to mention that. How can we pray? Sometimes when we look at all this stuff, it can be very overwhelming, can't it? And we might think, oh, wouldn't it be so much easier if we didn't have all this stuff? And yeah, there's times I think that too. And when I feel overwhelmed, I turn to prayer, or I should do. And here's just a few points for us to remember to pray. And what I would say is when you have your prayer times before your youth organisations, before your Friday clubs, whatever you have, we do pray about safety, don't we? And we pray about the children and their lives at home. We pray about their education and we hope they'll do well in their exams and we might pray about that. But we also need to be praying about their interactions online, that they'll be safe and that they'll also be wise and make wise choices. This is the challenge, I believe, of our generation. It's also the challenge for the parents and leaders of this generation as well. So we need to pray about it. And I certainly feel I need to be praying about it more than I actually am. Some websites up there if anybody is interested in just finding out more information about how we maybe set up devices, keep our children safe, and all of that. And certainly, as I said, come and have a wee chat at lunchtime if you would find that helpful, or if you have any questions for me. And just have my contact details up at the back. I don't know if I have time for questions just now. Yes, okay. Angie says yes. If anyone does have a question, can't promise to know all the answers. Yes. Yeah, okay. Really good question. What about children who are already addicted to the phone? Anything? Anything electronic, yeah. It's very difficult, isn't it? Probably what I would say in that situation, no easy answer. Probably what I would do is a wee bit like the phone pledge. I would sit down with the child and I would explain to them in an age-appropriate manner why it's not good for them to be spending so much time. And I would talk about they're missing out on other things and so forth. And even if they don't agree with me, I'm still telling them why. And I'm going, because of all of that, we're going to work together to put in a little plan to make sure that you're not missing out on other things and you're not having a negative impact on your life. And I would then work with them to think, well, how long should they be spending? Let's put a time limit per day. What do they think? And you might not agree with them, but you're maybe trying to come some agreement. And you'll maybe say, well, maybe we'll just have this on certain days, or we'll have more time at weekends, etc. So basically you're sorting out a plan. You get them to buy into that plan, and there might be rewards. We'll try this for this week, and if this works, we're going to do such and such, okay? And reward doesn't always have to be something that costs money, sure it doesn't. It could be something they want to do, spending time. And then you get them to agree it, you agree it, and you review it, and you see how that goes. And that's what I would suggest. I remember another alternative, of course, is cold turkey. I remember one parent telling me at a workshop, this was a long time ago, and his child was just so addicted to the computer game, Xbox, I think it was. He got so cross, the dad lifted it, put it in the boot of the car. He told me it stayed there for 6 years. Eventually, he said his son thanked them. He said, you know what? I'm glad you did that. They might not be thanking us at the time, but hopefully, God willing in the end. So thank you for your question. I hope that helps. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, brilliant question. What age would I recommend getting their first phone? I have to say, I used to avoid answering this question because it is, it's up to everybody themselves, what I would say. What I would say now, and you keep me right, but in Northern Ireland we have primary school, and I think really that's up till 11 years old, yeah? So I would be saying, say no, absolutely, for those years. When it comes then to big school, sometimes there are reasons. They walk there, or we want to, check what they're doing. And also there is that, oh, well, this is what everybody's doing. Everyone else is on this. They need to make friends, etc., etc. What I would also say about that is there are phones now that you can get that don't have social media on it, but they're actually quite good phones. They don't look like an old brick, as we would call it. There's a phone called the pinwheel phone. And only recently, I know it's available in the UK. I think it probably is available in Ireland. Previously, it wasn't. So I would recommend even having a wee look into that as well. So I hope that helps. But it is really a personal decision. Thank you. Anybody, any more questions? Yes. So what you're saying is if one parent says one thing and the other's addicted, mm-hmm, is saying no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can be really, really challenging. It's really challenging if both parents are not on the same page. Absolutely. And what I would also say is, even, so to do that, I'm not sure. Have the conversation. I would still recommend if you can get both parents to sit down and agree to making some kind of pledge, some kind of agreement. That's not always possible, but if both parents were able to agree to that, that would be super helpful. The other thing I would say is even if some of us as parents are rightly so thinking, I really don't want them to have it, I'm really not going to lie, they will still see stuff. They will still, from their peers, from other children. It is almost unavoidable, which is why for me it comes back to education. It comes back to talking to the child. And, simple parents spoke to me recently saying they were very, very careful with their daughter, and that's because their son had been groomed online. Okay, so they were super careful. But then she ended up on some sort of TikTok video with her friend, and then there was lots of negative comments, and that affected her really badly. So we can be very limited on what we can do, and that's why we need to have the conversations. Yeah. So thank you. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, a good question. So just in case you didn't hear about anti-bullying, certainly I'm not sure exactly how it is in Ireland. In Northern Ireland, all schools do have to have an anti-bullying policy, and there is what's known as the anti-bullying forum. Now that is a Northern Ireland anti-bullying forum, so there could well, I imagine, be something in Ireland that would be the equivalent. And that's somewhere where I would go. But you could certainly Google that and have a wee look, because you're right. Sometimes it's very vague, and sometimes these policies were written years ago, and someone has just put in a sentence or two. Um, but it can be real. It's a real challenge for schools as well as for parents to try and do this. What I would say is, if you're interested and you're concerned, definitely do go and speak to the school, because they have to take it seriously. They do. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I understand. And yes, unfortunately, that's the kind of thing we see a lot of. It's, taking videos. Maybe people are just messing about, pulling a silly face, and that video gets shared, and that child feels really upset. And, another thing to say to our children is think before you share stuff, because they think, oh, well, I just shared it. Actually, that comes with a big responsibility, you know. And because it's so quick, and somebody will say, oh, share this, and they think, oh, I must reply right away. They'll sometimes do things without thinking. So we also want them to think, slow down. Somebody says to you to do something, just stop and think about it a minute. Is this really something that I'd be proud of doing? So thank you. Yes. Sorry, could you just repeat that a wee second? Is it about books? Yes. Okay. To read it. Yeah. I suppose that's not really my area. Yeah. So if I was a parent and I wasn't happy with that, I would just probably go and speak to the school about that. Yeah. Is that okay? Yes. Oh, sure. Brilliant. Thank you. Very good advice. Thank you. Super. And we'll have one last question. Yeah. Oh, no problem. Yes, we'll have your question. Oh, great. Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, you might like to share it with this lady here, so that would be super. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope there was something there that you found useful, you found helpful. If you are planning on going to my second seminar, it won't be repeated. There'll be some bits of continuity, but we have some different stuff. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much.